Hello everyone, and welcome to another Gear Talk. We do this every other Thursday. We are back once again covering the second chapter to Hollows, which surprisingly the name of the chapters is Hollows Part 2. We're going to pick up right where we left off and continue into all the fun with issue number 2, which is also the second part. Here we go! Jumping right into the comic, we actually start off where we left off with the boomers making their appearance. We actually have it where it picks up where originally there was debris that was flying into Jace's face from the explosion from the boom shot that went off. Turns out their entire cover was completely destroyed and demolished. They are now out in the open. Jace and the bleeding out Gil, who is, you would guess it, still bleeding out within Jace's arms holding onto his wounds. So when this happens, the teams that are all split up, we actually have it where Gil and Jace are in cover because Jace is trying to stop the bleeding. Barrick is over kind of doing his own thing, flanking from the side, and on the other flank, we have Marcus and Dom. So everyone is around, and they see what's going on, and it's decided among Marcus and Dom, he says, their cover is destroyed, we need to go make them a distraction so they can get out of here. So Marcus actually goes running on in, and he tells Dom, cover me while I'm doing this, because he's going to be the distraction for everything. And we see a great shot of Marcus going in, Lancer in one hand, grenade in the other, about to go in and make the distraction. While that's going on, the boomers have actually reloaded and they are firing once again, and they're aiming for Marcus. They see him. Marcus is able to slide under, and he's still going in, still holding the grenade. I think it's funny because in the picture, the grenade is like the closest thing to the boom shot, so it's like he's going under with it in the air. And my only thought is like, imagine he went through with too much force and it whipped up and blew up. But he's going under and he's got the grenade and he's ready to go and create the distraction. Now once you go to the next page, you believe the distraction really is for nothing because you see a giant explosion of where the boom shot shot off, but it turns out that they missed Marcus. While they're firing and dealing with him, Dom is a little bit worried, wondering if Marcus got hit or not. All of this, Barrick looks over. He's looking over at Gil and Jace. He's like, Jace, you need to move now. Get him and get moving right now. All of that, he's trying to get Gil to move, but Gil is still coughing up. He's still not doing too great. He's like, you need to start moving. While everything is going on, you look over, and out of the explosion is walking Marcus Phoenix. The most badass shot from this entire issue right now. You have a lot of badass shots in Hollows, but this is probably one of my favorites. And it's probably one of the most well-known when it comes to the comics and Marcus. It's him holding that Lancer with one hand still, and he's swinging the grenade, and he's getting ready to deal with them. And he says, you want some boom? Then I got just the thing right here. And he actually lobs off the grenade. Now, there are 3 boomers. One of them has already kind of gone off to do his own thing. And while he's going off, you have the 2 other boomers are still kind of dealing with the shooting off towards Jace and Gil. Now, the two that he's trying to distract are the ones that are shooting. And the one that's actually walking away is the one that's focused over towards Marcus, or at least sees Marcus. The 2 that are not aware of Marcus actually get the grenade that blows up right in front of them. Now, they don't die from that. Boomers are very resilient. They can actually take a grenade blowing up in front of them, and they can walk away somewhat all right. The 3rd one that's walking away still, actually Barrick runs in to take care of this one. And they do this in the books also. In Aspiel Fields, they do this to a boomer also, but Barrick does it here. He actually slides out with his chainsaw upwards. He misses the boom shot that's going towards him and actually goes to saw right in between the legs of the boomer. Now, YouTube is pretty not the happiest when you show graphic content, so I can't really show a lot of what is going to happen, but I can explain it. So he goes under and he slices right from the bottom, right from the delicate bits. He then makes his way behind him, and you can see like everything. You can't see everything. They're not going to show the anatomy, the delicate anatomy of a locust anytime soon. But you see like everything that was like towards that section, and he comes up and he gets him right towards the middle of the back. So he kind of like goes into a J formation behind him, and you see like a lot of like organs are hanging out, and it's just a bloody mess. Barrick, you can see between his legs looking at him. It's like, buddy, you are effed. While this is going on, you get a perspective from everyone else's side of things. So with the explosion going off towards the other boomers, you see Dom and Marcus are actually like, hey, now's our time, start unloading on them, and they start shooting off into the 2 boomers that are currently distracted from the entire explosion that went off in front of them. All the while, Barrick is over here. He made his way back up, and he now slices from the top of the head and comes right down on the boomer, slices the skull clean in half. And you just see this great shot. It's amazing. I wish I could show this one. I'm not going to because YouTube, but it's a shot that basically, it's like half the skull is gone, and here's the boomer, and the other one is Barrick's head right behind him, and here's Barrick's. So it's like a split right the middle, Barrick's side and the boomer's. It's amazing. I love it. All the while, you get Jace's perspective on things. Jace is still holding on to Gil. Gil is still bleeding out, and he's starting to lose his consciousness. So they're just like, come on, wake up. You gotta wake up. Come on, come on, come on. The entire time, they're all fighting off. They do take out the boomers. You do see that the two that are being unloaded on are taken care of. Barrick is Barrick. He's already taken care of all that. They are dead and not getting up. And you do see towards the very end of everything, with everyone finishing off the boomers, towards the end of the whole battle, you actually have Gil slumped over in Jace's arms, and he has just now died from blood loss. And you see Jace holding him. And you get this later on when you see... You actually get later on in the chapter about how Gil died. It's the same way that Jace's brother originally, back when he was a child, originally died in his arms when he was a little kid. So it's mirroring the exact same way that the death occurred. And for Jace, this is kind of, traumatizing, because it's like my best friend out of basic just bled out in my arms the same exact way my brother did when I was a child. During this entire situation where he's holding on to Gil, you do get like some of the background narration that is Jace, and he talks about like, back when this was my brother when it happened, I was sitting there, I mourned, I cried, I screamed, every single emotion I could have. And then you flash to where he currently is with Gil, and he's like, I can't bring myself to do it now. Like, I want to cry, I want to scream, I want to do something, but I just feel hollow. Emphasizing, obviously, the name of the Hollow has something to do with the Locust, but Hollow being the name of the chapter, the issue series, him feeling hollow, he says, I feel numb. He's like, I would want to cry, I feel sad, he's my best friend, my brother, but I just can't bring myself to cry. While he's lamenting and feeling all of this, Marcus comes behind and puts a hand on his shoulder and says, hey, Jace, we gotta get going, let's go. And one of the only times you have it in Gears lore where you actually have it where they are able to bring the body back with them. Not a lot of times you don't have that, because in at least Gears of War 4, you at least learn from Marcus that a lot of the time during the Locust War, they never went out and searched for their dead, or they brought their dead back. They always just focused on the cog tags, because they even said, like, with the war going on, how big this was, bodies were everywhere. There was no reason to just go and grab the bodies. There was no time. It was just, get the tags, we'll mourn for them. We can't spend our time going out getting bodies. So Gil's like an exception. I guess since the battle was already over, they had just the APC right there. They were like, well, nothing really stops us from bringing him. We might as well. His body is in decent condition, even considering he's missing a chunk from right here. Like, it's still a whole body, It's not like we're in the middle of a war zone. Like, let's get him and bring him back. So they do. They drive all the way back to Jacinto. They bring him with... Jace takes a hold of his cog tags, and he is the one that has the cog tags. I'm assuming he either brought them back or he still holds on to them. Since we never really hear much about Gil in the future, aside from the Wall of Remembrance, I'm assuming he probably brought them back and gave them to someone. I think you do that in the military. You'll present them to somebody, and they're the ones who take them and put them in the records as KIA or missing in action or something like that. So he probably did that. They bring him back, and they do proceed to have Gil's funeral, along with everyone else's who has died. So how it works in the Coalition, or at least the COG, during the Locust War, is that when funerals are performed, it's done by funeral by fire. They basically light everything and torch it ablaze. The reason they do this, and we get Jace's perspective on it all, is that ever since the monsters came up from the ground, the Locust E-Day happened, they would never bury their people in the ground. They didn't feel it was right because, the monsters are coming up. Why would we put our people down there with them? And, down there is hell and above is heaven. If we burn them, then they ascend to heaven. And that's what we all really want in the end. So the idea of the fire is that, they're ascending them into heaven. They're not going to put them down the ground towards hell. Jace is a bit religious, we learn throughout the series. He's a little bit, he doesn't harp on it too much, but it does come up now and then. He is a religious person. He believes in his faith. He believes in God. He believes in all this. Now, obviously, when it comes to Sarah, religion and everything is different. It's not like everyone believes in the same faith throughout all dimensions of fiction. So whatever faith he believes in, he does have a higher belief in something, whether it be the All-Fathers or anything above that, he does believe. So that's how he kind of sees it, and he is very questionable on his faith now and then because of everything that's happening around him. I mean, it is basically the apocalypse they're fighting in. So you could kind of see it from Jace's perspective, how he's having this argument with himself when it comes to all of this. Now that they're back at Jacinto, we actually cut away from that and we focus on Anya for a moment. So Anya is being introduced to the new display system that's being given to the Jackbots. So the one she sees is the one we see in 2. This is the one where it has the drop-down screen and it's an actual video we have of Anya talking to the gears we have. This is where it's introduced kind of, and the doctor is sitting here and he's telling him like, oh yes, this is like the new thing, you know, you're able to see the faces. It's better than just a projection now. You know, it's an actual video feed that we're going to have back and forth where you can actually see them. And Anya's just like, you know, the gears are going to love this. I think it's going to be great for the jackpots. It's great. And then we hear from the distance, like, not as great. It's going to be great seeing more of you. And we see that it's Dom, actually. And originally, like, if you don't know the series that well, or, like, just in general, like, if you play the first game and you're very new to everything, you don't play the second, you're just introduced to, like, the first comic, you know, like, if you go in order of everything, honestly, my first gut kick assumption to this was just like, is he hitting on Anya? But then you have to realize, no, he's not hitting on Anya. He's just happy to see her. And he's like, Dom, great to see you back. And he's like, Anya, great to see you too. And they start talking a little bit of just like, hey, how's everything going here, Anya? And Anya says like, you know, it'd be great if we had more ammo, more soldiers, more everything. But at least we have Jacinto, so, you know, we're not screwed yet. And just like, yeah, that's great. Have you seen Marcus yet? Dom asks her. And she says, you know, since you guys got back, no, I haven't seen Marcus yet, but normally I'm the first to go and find Marcus. If you know anything about Marcus and Anya's relationship, that's because of the fact that Marcus is very, what's the right word? Not private. He doesn't like to show emotion a lot. So romance and everything, he really doesn't enjoy showing at all, period. So when he's in public, it's kind of like Hank Hill from King of the Hill. Like when he's in public, he doesn't like to show a lot of his emotions. He doesn't like to be very like outwardly loving or anything. That's not how Marcus is. He's very quiet and to himself. So he goes to the bar and that's where you find him. And he's over at the Rusty Nail. That's right, like the big hot spot we have in the Gears of War series, where that's like the bar everyone goes to, is the Rusty Nail in Jacinto. One of the only bars still running. And actually, when we look over here, you see it at the Rusty Nail. To the left of the frame, there is a character that still has like his war jacket on and with an eye patch. We learn later on and we see this is actually Lieutenant Draper, the person who is in charge and the leader of Midnight Squad. So the background for this was that when they were doing this comic and they jumped over to Midnight, they were such a fan of the design and everything of this one frame we have for Draper, they actually took him and they placed him into Operation Midnight as the leader. They fleshed him out more. They were that happy with the design of just this grizzled blonde with an eye patch sitting at the bar. Like, give this guy lieutenant status and put him in charge of Midnight. Let's do it. You jump over here and you actually see Marcus at the bar, and Anya goes out to find him. Because of the fact, again, Marcus, he doesn't like to go show emotion. He's not going to go out to Anya first. Now, in private, they very much do love each other a lot. They have a lot of time together. They talk to each other a lot. But in public, he never is like that. And Anya, in the books, you learn, is very resentful of that. She's like, why can't he just talk to me, love me, hold hands with me like a normal couple would? But she does understand Marcus as who Marcus is. That's the person she fell in love with. That's the person that she does care for, is the very quiet Marcus, and not like a boisterous, out loud one like Dom, which is like, mi amor Maria, that kind of thing. Like, he's always been quiet, and that's how he is. So she finds him and says, hey, it's good to see you. And he's like, yep. And she says, you know, my condolences for Gonzalez. You know, I heard about it. I'm so sorry. And he says, appreciate it, but words can only do so much. And he just continues drinking at the bar while Anya sits next to him. While they're sitting there, they actually have two gentlemen approach and they start hitting on Anya because, you know, the end of the world, basically, the final war for mankind, might as well start hitting on the ladies. So they go up and say, hey, how about we buy you a drink? And Anya says, no thanks, I'm not up for that. And they say, yeah, sure, I hear the shine here is pretty good. And Marcus interjects, the lady said no. And the guy comes over to Marcus and says, hey man, don't hate the player, hate the game. You know, ladies aren't just falling out of the sky left and right. And Marcus is like, oh, the game, yeah, sure. And they mention this, and it's important to mention this because this comes up later on in the next series we have for Baron. They mention, hey man, ladies aren't falling left and right. The farms are bad enough, we don't have enough choice. They keep locking up the good. And then you have Anya deck the dude in the face. Now, I'm just going to leave it here, the farms. We're going to touch on that a lot when we come to Baron. We're gonna talk a lot about that in Baron. But the farms, he's talking about the birthing farms. And it's mentioned to Marcus when we get there, to another character we'll introduce when we get there, that, you know, he knew about the birthing farms, and he says he might have known but he never partook. You know, this is a portion where it's like, okay, he kind of, you know, it was mentioned to him at least here. Like, he knew about the birthing farms. He did. He wasn't lying there. But Marcus never did do anything with the farms. Even if they proposed it to him, he probably would have still said no. So Very interesting. We'll be touching on that more when we get to Baron. But the man gets decked right in the face, and the second man sees Anya do this, and he's winding up ready to smack her right in the face. They're just like, you bitch. And as he's about to, Marcus takes his hand and grabs his and crushes it in his hand, and is basically just like, the stereotypical, like, you touch her, you're going to die here. They actually get pushed away, and he's like, you really want to go? Let's go. Anya stops Marcus and says, Marcus, it is not worth your time to fight this guy. The man stops dead in his tracks. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Marcus Phoenix? The Marcus Phoenix. Automatic apologies from him. He's like, whoa, whoa, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know. You know, I'm sorry for everything. I didn't know that was your lady. We're out. See ya. We're out. See ya. Bye. So Marcus is that well known throughout all the COG, even though he went to the slab, that anyone who even knows him or sees him is like, whoa, Marcus Phoenix. See you later. Much respect. So we actually cut from here. We jump over to a press conference that's being televised. And it's actually Prescott talking about everything that happened with the light mass offensive with the bomb. So we learn from him that there has not been much of a sighting of krill at all. We learned that the bomb was dropped basically at their resting area, their mating areas. Like, everything was dropped and took out the majority of all the krill that's out there. Now, they didn't take out all the krill. I mean, a mass extinction is impossible almost from just one singular thing. Like, it is so hard, even in our world, for a mass extinction to occur all in 1 second. Like, there is always something that'll be around that can kind of bring the population back. Like, for instance, like the California condor. For a lot of time in America, they thought the condor was extinct and it was gone until it was sighted, and they started to learn, like, oh, the species is not dead yet. There are still some that are around. It's very hard to just wipe out a species. It's so hard to do that. But we as humans, we're very good at it. We almost did it to the American buffalo. I'm certain we could do it again if we tried. But there's probably still some krill around, but not enough in the numbers that would cause any problems for anybody. So think of it like if you blew up like 99% of the bats. Like 1% of bats in the world is not going to cause an issue to anybody. But they're talking about it. They say like the locusts we were aiming at taking out, we did not take out any of them. We basically just pissed them off. They're still around, but the krill have been taken care of. We then cut from that, from the televised press conference, to actually Jace, who is watching this. And he is told, hey, Jason Stratton, Mr. Wiseman, we learn it's Wizen, but for some reason in this they call him Wiseman. Mr. Wiseman is ready to see you. Where Jace is like, cool, thanks. And we actually go over next and we see who this is. We see a jolly, more elderly individual, happy as ever to see Jace, and this is Dr. Wizen. As I said earlier, we already know Dr. Wizen. When we had actually the Shadow of Rom DLC we have in 3, this is when we're first, like, timeline-wise, we're introduced to Dr. Wizen, and we see that he's in charge of the orphanage over in Alima. Now, since they're in Jacinto, since that time, they've actually moved everything now over, the orphanage and everything has been moved over to Jacinto now. That's where they are. And you actually see it where Jace is there, he goes to visit, and this is the first time since he's left the orphanage, he has actually gone back to see Dr. Wizen and the orphanage kids. And Dr. Wizen's like, it's so good to see you. You're a gear now, huh? It's nice to see you. How's everything going? And he's like, it's going good, thanks. Yeah, I became a gear. You know, because of Zeta, he became the gear that he wanted to be. So he's like, yeah, I've now enlisted, and this is where I am. And he's like, it's so good to see you. Hey, you should come and see the kids. Like, it's been a long time since they've probably seen you. Like, some of them are still here. They probably remember you. Now, obviously, they've moved from Alima, you know, from Zeta Squad, we learned, Shadow of Rom, they had to move that orphanage. They are not in Alima anymore. But some of the kids and everyone came with, and he's like, you know, they're going to be happy to see you. And Jace seems a bit more down with all this. He's like, yeah, you know, not this time. I just came to say hi and check in. You know, maybe next time I'll come by and say hi to the kids and everything. Because Jace, throughout everything, he has this depression of everything with the war and a loss of faith, and he doesn't really believe, and he's very nihilistic is probably the right word. He's very nihilistic about everything going on. So he leaves there after saying hello. He just wanted to come and say hello, and we actually see the next page, this nice looking spread of like what's left of like some of Jacinto, and we have it where it's been a week and they're now being deployed out again. After the week, Dom does ask Jace, because you see both of them there. He says, hey, Jace, how was your week off from combat? Like, how was your week off? And he says, like, yeah, you know, not bad. I just went to go see some people, do some stuff. Dom's like, great, you know, can't wait to get back out there. You know, I don't like being stuck with my thoughts. Where Jace is basically like, yeah, me too. And we learn, as we see from this, you know, Jace with his nihilistic view of things as we begin this issue series with Hollows. And we already know about Dom's story. Both of them have a little bit of baggage on their plates right now. So it's best they just get back to combat. That's how they see it. So they meet up with everyone else in Delta. They meet up with Marcus, Hoffman, and Anya, where they are basically like getting ready to be back and deployed. Hoffman says, okay, we've already covered everything with Lieutenant Phoenix. He'll give you all a sit rep on what's going on. We've got a new bot in there for you, the new fitted jack bot that they have. And Anya is going to be your comm specialist as always. Everyone's ready to start heading out. Let's get going. And Marcus even says, like, hey, let's move out. Let's get going. You have a moment while they're about to leave where Anya and Dom are talking to each other. And you have it where Anya says, like, hey, Dom, just so you're aware, I am still looking for her. I'm still trying to find her. Where Dom says, thank you. We learn into it's Maria. They're trying to find Maria. But at this point, Anya is still trying to get information. They're still trying to go through stranded camps, other intel, anything out there in order to find Maria. This is where she's still trying to find information. And as they're leaving, Jace is like, hey, wait a minute. We're really going to leave on this mission and we're not going to go with a 4-man squad? And that's when you have Marcus in the distance say, we are. And you see in front of us the new member of Delta is Michael Barrick, chomping on a cigar, about to light it, Lancer ready to go. Actually, he's got a Nasher here. He's got his Nasher, his lighter, and he's ready to go to war. We cut away now, and they're actually flying on Raven from Jacinto to Montevado. They're going there because the mission they have is they're getting odd seismic activity that's coming up near the area. They're basically sending Delta as a recon squad to see what exactly is going on. So they're sending the 4 of them out there. They're on Raven, and while they're going, he's talking with Barrick. Marcus is talking with Barrick, and he says, they're talking about, like, hey, like, seismic activity. We've been having that stuff happen since E-Day. What exactly is the big point of all this? And he's just like, that's just what they want us to do. We're going to go see. Barrick asks, how long do we have to get to Montevado still? And Marcus says, still a ways. While Barrick is basically, he's coughing up during the whole conversation. And Marcus says, like, you do understand that smoking those are going to kill you one of these days, right? And in Barrick's own words, hell, war will kill you. Sometimes that's the least of my worries. So they're flying over, and he's basically like, we learn later on why he's chewing on the cigars a lot, but right now he's kind of just dodging the question, like, I've got bigger problems than just a cigar I'm smoking. While they're flying, the pilot says, like, Sergeant Phoenix, we're getting some really unusual and odd readings going on right now, and you hear a boom hit this Raven. There is something heavy that hit it. And you see everyone shaking from the hit. And you see actually that Jace is about to fall out of there, and Barrick is the one going forward with his hand, like, Jace! Trying to save him. We get an inner monologue this whole time from Jace, again, narrating things about what's going on. While everything's going on, the inner monologue is basically like, flying up in the sky, going through, his thoughts went to thinking of Gil's funeral once again, and how easy it is that life can be lost, and then he starts thinking of heaven. Again, he is a religious individual, so he does bring this up now and then. You actually see that it's Marcus that actually catches him, and he finishes his monologue off of just like, he thinks of heaven and just how far away they are from it. So you actually see down below while Jason's about to fall when Marcus catches him, and Barrick's kind of just off to the side, just like, well, at least he caught him. You see down there are cedars among cedars that are down there. And basically they're just like, oh, dang, they're shooting. We got to go. If we get shot one more time. And it cuts off to 2 cedars, actually 3 of them. 2 of them miss, but one of them gets right into the cockpit and takes out the pilot. Basically, the one flying the plane is destroyed. Actually, the Raven is pretty messed up too. There's no way of flying it anymore, but it still has like the main propulsion and everything. The blades are still spinning, so it's still airborne at the moment, just heavily destroyed with a dead pilot. While they're still airborne, Marcus is trying to get a sit rep of everything that's going on. Obviously, the thing's probably shaking like this the whole time, and Marcus is like, what's the situation? And Barrick comes from up front. He's like, well, we're not good for too long. Pilot's already dead. He's gone. And Marcus is like, damn it. Okay, what are we doing here? And then you see over on the outside, all of these cedars are shooting off at once to take this thing down. And Marcus turns around like, while he's got the pilot, I find it funny for some reason. I don't know why. It's very gruesome. He's got like his arms on like the shoulder of the dead pilot who's missing half his head, basically just holding on to him. And he's just like, okay, any plans? Can anyone fly this at all? Anybody? While he's like holding the dead pilot. And then you hear in the distance, I'm assuming Barrick, you learn in the next chapter, Barrick hates flying. Barrick's like, I don't even like flying, how would I know? And he's like, that does not help right now. Do we have any parachutes we can use to get out of here? And then Dom comes up and he says, well, we did, but they caught fire, so we don't have anything anymore. The entire monologue Jace is still monologuing at this point too, he's still narrating. And he's just like, I hesitated at first, I was choosing not to say anything, there was no other way. And then I realized everything was on me. And you have it where Jace comes up and he says, I might be able to get us down right now. And Marcus is like, you can? Well, then get up. Well, he's not holding the dead pilot anymore. He let go because he turned around. Like, get up here and start flying. And Marcus is like, have you ever flown one of these before? And Jace says, I have flown one before. I have never landed a raven in my life, though. You turn over, just a solemn face, a close-up of Marcus, just, shit. And the inner monologue ends for Jace where he's like, not good. And that's to be continued. Is just they're in the air, Jace is going to fly them down, but never once in his life has he landed a raven, so he doesn't know how to. And that's where it ends. It just ends with them just in the air, pretty much spinning out. And they're like, what do we do? Who's going to fly this? That's the end. So that's going to do it for Hollows Part 2. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank everyone for making things possible. Thank the patrons for making things possible. When we come back, we're going to be covering Part 3, and we're going to see exactly how they land the bird. So I hope everyone's been enjoying the comic series so far. Got a lot of good reception on the first one. I'm very happy that people are enjoying the comic series. There's a lot of amazingly good stories in here, and a lot of nice lore that's thrown in and world building I really like. So we'll come back for Part 3. We'll have another grand time and see exactly what happens next when we get to the continued adventures of Delta Squad making it to Montevado. See you all in the next one. Later!